we go. You should be all set, Maureen.
Yeah, I'm able to. So before I share my screen, so I'm Maureen Josephine, a software engineer based in Nairobi, Kenya. So currently it's 8 p.m. at night. So I hope you are having a good time in the morning. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen in a moment. Yeah, so just like I've said, I'm Maureen Josephine, a software engineer based in Nairobi, Kenya. So currently I work with CarePay. CarePay is a company in Kenya that mostly does we build a mobile platform that helps people like get easily access to hospitals, and helps also providers to pay the payers, I mean, to pay insurance firms to pay through our platform, and also members can also seek their medical health using the same platform. So the company is called CarePay. We have branches in both Nigeria, Kenya, Amsterdam, and Tanzania. So today I'm going to talk about setting lint rules in Flutter, and I hope we learn together. So feel free to interrupt in case of any questions. So the agenda of today, first thing we're going to learn what's linting. Then we're also going to learn about common programming errors that people encounter. We'll share these with you. Then we'll also learn how to implement the lint rules in Flutter. Then I'll show you a sample demo of a code where I've implemented the lint rules. Then from there, we'll have the Q&A. So you notice that most times, for example, in a company settings where we have like several developers using the same, developing from the same source, we find that most of the time people, especially companies where we have clients who request for features like at a certain rate of time, you find that the velocity of writing code goes high as time increases. So most of the time you find that if there are no like any specific rules set for that, you'll end up there's high chances of crappy code. We call it crappy in quotes. So what can we do to stop this? For example, if you are maybe a company setting of maybe 100 developers all writing from the same code and there are no rules, you find that it will be difficult to know what's happening in the code, for example, or maybe if you are a new employee in the same company, it will be difficult to know what to do at that particular time. So are you the kind of person who will go for developing many features provided the clients are happy, or the kind of person who will always be on the look for errors in such a way that you can't like stop to do the correction of any errors or problems when you encounter them? Or are you the kind of person who will always follow the rules when writing code? So that's what we are going to learn today. And we have like the lint rules that help us like have a specific way of writing code. So it helps governs a crowd of people, for example, one or more than one people. You'll have like those specific rules that guides you when you're writing the specific code, so that you don't encounter like many spaghetti codes or maybe crappy codes. So that's the purpose of today's meeting. So what's linting? So linting, as the word go, it's the process of checking the source code for programmatic errors as well as stylistic errors. So for example, when you're writing your code, in many cases, you might have encountered, sorry about the background noise. You might have encountered, for example, when you have created your code immediately, then there's something wrong you've done, or maybe you have imported a package but you've not used it. You'll get a green squiggle in that or any other language. So it underlines it and informs you that you have an unused package. So what you can do at that particular point is either remove it or learn how to use it. So there are, sorry. Yeah, so there are these types of errors, these common types of errors. It's not dependent on specific language, but it's general to various languages, be it Java, JavaScript, Elixir, or any other language. So the common types of errors that we have are these: syntax error, runtime error, and linker error. So the linker error is the kind of error that you get when you, for example, maybe import a package and not use it correctly. You'll get this linker error. Then the logical error that most people get, for example, if you're trying to implement a logic but you're not doing it the right way, you'll get this logical error. Then we also have the semantic error. So how can we like use the lint rules to help us like know this kind of errors, get a lot of this kind of errors in advance before they occur, for to curb these kind of problems. So today we're going to learn how to set the lint rules in Dart. So in Dart we have like two ways of doing it. So the first way is using this linter for Dart. So I think I can share the link, or maybe let me just open this. Yeah, so when you check this link, this is linter for that. It's always auto-generated, and it captures both stylistic errors or any kind of errors related to packages. So when you scroll through this link, we get that these are some kind of errors that most people usually get if you use, like for example, if you use import a package and you don't use it. Also, this avoid empty else, that is if you are trying to implement a else statement and you leave it empty. So that's not the way to go according to these linter rules for that. You will also get this avoid returning null. For example, if you are returning a null at a wrong place, so you'll be told not to. You'll get this squiggle of error telling you to avoid doing this. You'll also get these ones to avoid like the type, to avoid types as parameter names. This is it will tell you, for example, if you write a type which is the same as the parameter name, it will not accept it. So these are some kind of rules that we currently have for Dart. You'll get most of them in the effective Dart. I'll share the link later. So so how do we set the lint rules in Flutter? So in Flutter, how we do it, to set the lint rules, we have to create this analysis underscore options.yaml file. And being that YAML is always case sensitive, so you have to be on the look for that. But if you want to create the lint rules, you have to create this file first. And there are two ways of creating lint rules in Flutter. So first of them is using the Google rules, the Google default rules. So you can either use these Google default rules or customize your own rules. So if you're using this the default Google rules, let me just open this. Yeah, we have this package, the pedantic package. So when you see it's 100% popular. So how to use it? You just scroll down, you read about the README on how to use it. So when you want to use it, you'll import this package in your pubspec.yaml file, then add it as a dependency, as it's stated here, and make sure you use the latest version to avoid any unseen errors that you might encounter. So you can either use this, or if you want to add it in your analysis. If you just want the analysis.yaml file, you can also add it as a dev dependency, just the way it is here. And then later on, you include this package on the analysis options.yaml file. So I'll show you how to do it. So once you've implemented this, so because of the default rules that Google have already put in place, so in case you're trying to implement something that's against the rules, you will get the specific errors. So for example, the first one, for example, always put control body on a new line. So this violates the effective DART, the do format. So the effective DART has the do's and don'ts. So when you check that, you'll see what to do and what not to do. So when you use this default Google pedantic package, it will use the default rules that Google already has put in place. So just a moment. Yeah, so here is it. Then when you're using it, you just add the package, as I had said in the other folder. Sorry. Yeah, you add it within your analysis._options file. So if you want to customize the rules to be like specific to your project or specific to your company, you'll be forced to use this. Let me just do this. Yeah. So when you want to customize your own rules according to maybe the rules of the company, you will have to add you will have to add this within the analysis options file that you had already created. So you add this linter, then add rules. Then underneath the rules, you add the specific rules that you want to be enforced in that particular project. So for example, let's click to the effective DART so that we can see like which kind of rules can you implement in that specific case. So when you check the effective DART style, there are specific rules of identifiers on how you're supposed to put them. So here we have like the do name types. For example, for the upper camel case, this is how you are supposed to write it, like slider menu, then HTTP request. So when you write like something that's against this and you already put the lint rules in place, you'll get that error that you're supposed to correct this. So this is a good way of doing it, as they are mentioning here. You can also do the library names with underscore. So this is a good way of doing it. However, we also have the good ways of doing it and the bad ways of doing it. So for the library names, it's not recommended to put it like without the underscore, like for example, this one. You see the way it is, it doesn't have, the words are jumbled up together. So there's no that good spacing. So if you want to implement this or maybe customize this to your according to your own rules, you check out what rules we currently have on the effective dat, then put them below what you want. So like this one, for example, yeah, there's this do of place the dat imports before other imports. So when you're writing code, most people don't take this seriously. The alignment is usually good. So if you have a project where you have like the dat packages and other packages, it's good to put the dat packages before other imports, like this one, like we have it this way. So that at least it becomes more clearer for any other person maybe working on the same project, or maybe any other newcomer in the project. So this is a bad way of doing it. You see, it's mixed up. We have like this import and we also have other imports. So it doesn't really make sense. And it's also good to sort it alphabetically so that, you know, like when you're looking at it at a glance, you know that this is how it goes, like just from a glance. So that's what you can also consider doing. So there are also other projects which are usually having so many lines of code. So if you like write, you can enforce these rules of avoid lines longer than 80 characters to enforce this rule so that the code becomes neat, and any new person, for example, if it's a big project, it becomes like easily noticeable and can be easily used to when you are getting to it for the first time. So it becomes like easy to see at a glance what's happening on the background, so that if you have maybe 1,000 characters in the same line, you put this rule so that every person will have to implement 80 characters per line, so that the project doesn't appear so big, like the way we have it in this example. So these are some of the links. These are some of the links that you can check out for the analysis options, the dev guides for the analysis options, the effective dat style rules that will govern how you code, and also how neatly you put your code according to the requirements. Then the pedantic rules. So for the pedantic is the Google package that you add. Then this one is for the linter. Yeah, so basically that's it. So I'll show you like a sample code where I've implemented these linter rules so that we can play around with it and see what happens. So I'll just, let me close this. So the project I am about to show is my sample project of my portfolio. I've built it with Flutter. So I have in place some, yeah, let me just show you briefly how it looks like. So this is it. It has these pages and my apps, my activities, and also you can contact me here. So what we are going to do is try to play around with the lint rules that I was just talking about. So and see if the project builds or if it fails. So when we say that we have to create the analysis options file, so this is the file here. It's a YAML file and it's case sensitive. So here I implemented the use of enabling customizing the rules, that is enabling individual rules. So for this, you have to place this linter first, then beneath it, you place the rules. Then beneath the rules, you place the specific rules that you want for the specific project. So as we saw in the previous link, there are different types of rules: the style rules, the formatting rules, and the documentation comments. So for example, I've added the camel case types. So this one should follow the camel case types according to the requirement of effective DAT, and then the library names. So if I violate any of this thing, the project will fail. I've also implemented this one for avoiding an empty else, so that it captures it when it encounters it. And also this one for returning null, unnecessary lambdas, unnecessary overrides. So these ones are some of the stylistic rules that I've put in place. Then for the formatting, I've also put in place this one for lines longer than 80 characters. So when the linter finds that there's a code that's longer than 80 characters, it will probe it as a problem, and I'll have to like correct it. We also have this one for curly braces in the flow control structures. So I also implemented this so that I have like a good format for my code, and also for the documentation I'll use this. So for the project, I'll just go to a place where I've placed so many. We'll start with the ones for formatting, where I have like maybe lines longer than 80. So I'll just dismantle this. So that it becomes longer than 80 characters, so that I can have like lines longer than 80 characters. Yeah. So let me restart it. Yeah, let me just build it afresh. Yeah, I can either use terminal or the VS Code, but for now I'm using the VS Code to run the app. So it's currently building, and we can already see we have 3 problems already. Yeah, so this one is telling me the title is deprecated and I shouldn't use it. I should use label instead. And it's also telling me the specific line. So when I go to this line, yeah, here is it. So what linter does is just checking the source code and seeing if there's any style that's against the required rules according to the effective DAT. So this one for title, I'll have to change it according to what they are now telling me. Yeah, the project has run. So when I see this, let me just add this too. Yeah, you can see the lines are longer, extremely longer than the required. No, I don't want to push. Yeah, let me rebuild it. So in the meantime, as it is building, for example, if maybe I import another package, let me say this one. So the linter rule will underline this because I'm trying to import it and it's not being used here. So I'll get this one for unused import. Same case to if in case I had like empty return statement as stated in this effective dat, I would also get such errors. So if you want to see, let's just wait a minute for the project to build. Yeah, so if you want to also see what else you can do, this link shows you exactly what you should avoid. So for this one, it shows you, for example, if you implement this count and you have this semicolon here, and the code looks so incomplete. So what the linter rule will do, will throw that error, the specific error that it wants you to do. And the beauty of it is that it shows you the specific line of code where you need to fix it. Yeah, so let's go back to it. Yeah, so I don't know why it's not capturing this as lines longer than 80 characters, or maybe my lines are not. Yeah, but it should capture it. I don't know why it's not capturing it.
Maureen, does it have anything to do with the name of the YAML file? Because analysis is spelled wrong in the file name. So I wonder if it's not getting picked up.
I think it should be working, but let me just rename it.
No, I think Rona's correct. That file name has to be exactly analysis underscore options, I believe.
Wait, how do we spell analysis?
You've got analysis now.
You got it. That's right.
I think it also needs to be underscore. Dart doesn't like hyphens in its file names, but I would need to check that real quick.
Yeah, let me just check it. I'm sorry.
It's right there. Yeah, analysis under options. Yeah, it does have to be that exact file name. That's the file it's looking for.
Yeah.
Rona?
Yeah, so it needs to be, you need to put an underscore instead of a hyphen too, and then you should be good to go.
Yeah, so let me just rename it. So let me restart it. Yeah, that worked. So it was able to recognize that there are lines longer than 80 characters. So when I go to it, so these ones were underlined by the linter. That means that I should correct it. I should correct them. There's also this one for avoid catches without clauses, like this one. So I should correct these. So the beauty of this is that if you're working on a group project, and maybe because people code differently, you'll always be notified of what's not going correct, so that it becomes like rectified in advance, so that we don't have so many technical debts. So this one we also have, yeah, the the lines longer than 80 characters that I introduced, which I now need to correct according to what I placed in this file. So that's basically it. So this was just an introductory to setting these linter rules. So I also have this article about setting linter rules that I wrote. So you can always check it out to get the basic knowledge of what you are required to do. And that's it. So do we have any questions for now?
Thanks, Maureen. This was awesome. And I think it's helpful actually to see how the file being misnamed will cause it to break, because that's something that other people will easily run into. But
Yeah.
I do have a question. I am wondering if there is a way to kind of override a rule in like one specific case. If you want to just say like, okay, yeah, I recognize that you want me to name my classes with initial caps, but in this case, I'm not going to do it for some whatever random reason. I mean, this is probably a bad example, but is there a way to just kind of override it and tell the linter to ignore it in this one specific case?
Yeah. So for example, in our company, we have the specific style guides. So there are some styles errors that we frequently get, but you can override them. However, there are some that you can't build the project until you correct it. So you can always customize this to what you want. But if you are a solo developer, it's most likely you are going to ignore them, but it's not wise to do so. Any other pointers from the audience? Do you have any other idea regarding in regards to Rona's question?
Yeah, if I may jump in for a second, great presentation. Thank you very much. Actually, I read your Medium document and stuff a while back when I was digging into it. To answer your question, Rona, I'm very impressed with the Dart team's implementation of the linter and linter rules, but it is highly flexible and customizable. You can literally turn off, you can specify which files you don't want the lint rules to apply to, because maybe you're getting a package that's failing some of the rules that you've chosen, that team that wrote that package didn't elect to, wasn't part of their development goals. But you can turn off the linter rule per package. You can even go down to per line. If there's a weird line that it's like, yeah, this is a weird line, I know it, but I don't care, I need to do it for whatever reason you have. You can override down to the single line level. Because the way I've implemented this is the pedantic package that Maureen talked about is the core set of linter rules that the Dart team uses. And so I use that as a base. And then from there, you can add or subtract individual lint rules to your set by customizing that analysis options YAML file. It's really quite an impressive, extensive linter system. And one of the things I've always thought was interesting, because this doesn't really enforce anything except to put the problems here, but you can tie this in with your check-in either to GitHub through GitHooks or Bitbucket, and have it reject a check-in if it doesn't pass, if it doesn't, if there are any problems with it, it'll run the Dart formatter, which is, I think, awesome.
Yeah, you can always add it. For example, if you want it to be checked, if you're using CI/CD, you can add it within your pipelines. If you're using Bitbucket, you can add it as a step to be checked within your Bitbucket pipelines. Then that specific rule will fail. But in this case, I haven't placed it as a step on my Bitbucket because I was just doing it locally for the illustration. So if you're doing it, if you add the step in your CI/CD, that step won't pass if the check lint rule doesn't pass.
So where is the analysis options.yaml where you would also say, like, I want you to ignore all rules on this line? Like Michael, you said you could get that granular. You could say ignore this line of code in this file. I see the exclude where I can exclude a file, but where would you put a line?
Yeah. It's part of the macro. So when you include the file, there's a macro that you can sit there and say this method or this line. I'd have to pull up, but it's part of the documentation with Pedantic.
Okay.
And then it's in the Flutter documentation about analysis option, about how to get granular with it.
Okay, cool. I'll look. Thanks.
Any other question?
Yeah, I'm wondering, is there a rule that would make sure that variable names are actual words? You know, so that someone wasn't coding AA, BB, CC, DD for
I haven't
the names.
heard of that kind of rule.
Yeah, I don't know of anything like that, Bert. I've looked at it, a lot of the rules. I think you'd have to be doing something like tying in TensorFlow to and analyze actual words and stuff. And I don't think they've gone that far yet. But hey, as processors get faster, who knows?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, I had another
but,
question, and oh, go ahead.
Just go ahead.
So I had one other question. Thought, you know, about crappy code. From your perspective, is there also, you know, like a companion approach to bringing in new programmers into your project, where you try and have some in coding style that maybe the linter can't enforce?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Well, the question is, you know, are there things that can really help make code easier to read?
Rules that can make code easier to read.
Yes.
Any
I mean,
insight?
the linter helps. The linter helps a lot, but I'm just wondering if you have other practices as well.
Other practices to like make the code look neat.
Well, readable.
Or readable. Any person.
And understandable. Yeah,
Oh.
understandable.
Make them read clean code?
Yeah. So I want to get the insights from the audience regarding his question.
I think that's like Rona's saying, clean code from, God, that tome, the author's missing, I'm forgetting his name right offhand, but anyhow, I think for clean code, a big step is using Pedantic and the linter, which is basically all just tying into the Dart formatter. So every time you're writing a line of code, as long as that's being enforced, I think you're making a big step in that direction. And then trying to use the effective Dart style guide. You know, between the style guide and then, you know, there is a certain level of onus on the programmer to, you know, pick up good practices, and the other team doing code reviews saying, bad practice, slap the programmer's hand and let's show you the right way, or a better way, I should say, of writing the code. But short of that, I'm not sure there's a lot of process that could be added.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is kind of effective onboarding and documentation and explaining the architecture of the project and why it was architected that way, why the choices that were made. Things like I mean, there's obviously a lot of different ways to accomplish something, but things like state management, you need to be really clear what approach the project took. Because if you've got somebody coming in and you're using change notifier and they want to come in and throw streams everywhere, and the team isn't ready for that, or you know, looking for that, it might confuse people. So just making sure that everybody's on the same page about how the project's architected and the expectations around how things are going to get built and sort of the patterns that have already been established. I don't think there's any package that's going to help you with that at that level. That's just about good management, really. That's having a good technical architect on the team.
Right, and good code reviews.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and code
exactly.
reviews. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Would help govern the rules for any newcomer or existing members, just like Ronan said. Yeah.
That's who.
Yeah, so I have one question for you. So have you been able to implement these Lint rules in any of your Flutter projects? And what challenges have you faced when using it?
Yeah, I made the mistake. This is actually a good tip for people who haven't done this yet. I made the mistake of implementing them after I was already down the road a ways in my project. So I ended up with like 1,000 things that needed to get fixed, you know, and this is just me on my one project, you know, a couple years ago as a newbie. So I was just kind of coding and things were working, but I didn't have any rules. So then I put the rules in and I was overwhelmed with how many things I needed to fix. So I would say put it in immediately before you start, and then you won't have that headache.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I can add any insight, so sort of the same experience what I had when I first got in. I was just using the standard core Dart format that came back, and then I started seeing, I read a couple articles on Pedantic, and it's like, wow, that sounds like really good, because I'm a real big advocate for using a strong linter on a project for all the reasons that you pointed out, Maureen. And then when I did, I went way overboard. I said, okay, I want all the linter rules, and came up with a project that had, well, don't do that, because there's a whole bunch of those linter rules, like you were showing, Maureen, that even the Dart team says, these are questionable, these don't. So what I found was the best approach was start with just adding Pedantic, which will get you a step above the, you know, generic what's just with the Dart language, but Pedantic gives you the foundation of what the Dart team uses, and then start looking through the linter rules that are available. Maybe your team has one way, because there's things like, oh, only use single quotes on your string, or only use double quotes. Because, you know, there's no right answer to it. It's like, what does your team like, and what do they want to do? But I also found out that when I put in the YAML file and stuff to my project, I would put links in the comments to the linter rules and stuff. So if somebody's reading the code, they can easily hit the link and come up to, gosh, why am I getting this linter rule? And I found what Maureen's got up here right now, these have always been really, really useful, because it's like, why doesn't it like it? Oh, and they always have some great suggestions of how to fix and make the code better to comply with the effective Dart guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. So this one will help you like reduce technical debt in your teams, and also to help avoid bugs on production. Any other experience of not implementing Lint rules early, at an early stage of a project?
I've never used Lint rules.
I think you should start using it. You'll realize there are a lot of mistakes you overlook or you don't even check at all.
And Justin, if you do implement it and run into that issue that I had where you've got 1,000 things that you have to fix, you know, I still had to get work done, so I couldn't just stop everything and fix all of them. So what I did was I found the ones that seemed to be the most egregious, and I would just comment them out in my analysis file, and then knowing I needed to come back to them, uncomment them, and then, you know, fix them. So there's a little tip for kind of working through it, you know, one thing at a time if you do end up implementing it in a package that's already, or in a project that you've already started.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was like you are too busy to stop.
Right. Yeah.
One anecdotal story I'll share with everyone is I'm working on a contract project right now, and it started middle of October. And the engineers that are working on the project had no experience with Flutter at all, but they decided that this sounded really good. They wanted to get in, but they primarily came from a Java background. And when I started looking at the basic project that they first started with, there were a lot of Java coding techniques that they were bringing into the code that weren't good Dart programming style. So the first thing I convinced them to do was put in pedantic and let's put in some rules so we can see all the code and see the places where it's going to be problematic for all the reasons Maureen has pointed out. And we were able to clean up the code at an early stage. But yeah, just sort of the thought of new Flutter Dart programmers who are coming in from other languages, maybe bringing in styles or coding practices that aren't optimal Dart programming styles. So it's good to get it in early. And like I said, even with you're working with a different team, a contractor with these a group that's just learning Flutter and Dart, it got them on a good track early on.
Yeah, that's true.
What was an example of what the Java programmers?
File names was a big one. File names, they would use camel case and other things. They were using hyphens. Dart really wants for all of its file names, all lowercase, underscore that separates the words in it. Class names, they were not doing a good Dart style. I'm not even sure if it was good Java style, but at least it's pushed it. That was their response to me when I said, you shouldn't be doing it this way. Well, that's how I've always done it in Java. It was real easy once I said, let's put it in pedantic. This is the way, because they wanted to learn. It's like, this is what the Dart team uses. So this is, it helped me sell it, is this is the coding style you want. And then I'd also point out, looking at the Dart code that's behind all of the Flutter widgets and stuff and pointing that as examples. And yes, at least it pushed it in the right direction to stop, introducing bad code, or not bad code, but not following the effective Dart style guide.
Yeah. So when you look through this effective Dart style guide, there are so many things that people overlook or maybe don't even check at all, but it's good to check them. So in your projects, maybe you can find time and add like which rule do you want to enforce. For example, maybe if you're working in a big project where you have so many developers working on the same thing. Yeah, and that's basically it. Do we have any questions? Any more questions? If we don't have any further questions, then I'll pose it back to Rona.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Maureen. Let me go ahead and end the recording. Thanks everybody for coming.